Realocha and welcome to my channel. My name is Polo Matlala. If you are a returning subscriber, I really appreciate your support. And if you're here for the first time, Rafo Amokela, we welcome you to our family. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So South Africa has just observed the 16 days of no violence against women and children. And I thought that today we should focus on that, the violence in our society. Yes, I know that it's not a festive kind of topic, but I feel like it's a very important topic because of the violence that we are having as a society. Some people are not going to enjoy the festive season. So I wanted us to discuss violence in our society in the context of corporal punishment, because I believe that some of the violence that we are experiencing is as a result of the kind of corporal punishment that we were experiencing in our schools, during the 1990s. Of course, corporal punishment was abolished in South Africa in 1996, but we continue to suffer the effects. I thought that I should share a story about how my classmate in primary stood up to our teacher, who was like very big on corporal punishment, who used to punish us, who used to like really beat us in school. So just to give you a brief background, my family moved from the Vaal to Hammanskraal, and at the time I was doing grade 2 going to grade 3, right? And so my parents decided that we should go to Renule Primary School at the time, and that was because my brother was already in grade 5 going to grade 6, and my brother was doing Sesotho as a first language. And it so happened that in Hammanskraal at the time, they didn't have Sesotho as a first language. So my brother had to do Setswana. So my parents thought that it would be best for us to go to Renele Primary School because my aunt was a teacher there. So they thought that should be able to help us to transition. But in my case, I was already doing Setswana as a first language at Kitso Primary School. So fine, we go to Renele Primary School because my aunt is there. Phew, first thing first about Renele Primary School, guys. The first issue that I had with the school was that most of the neighborhood kids went to Livoning Primary School, which was quite closer to where we stayed. And I felt like isolated. My brother and I were kind of isolated. We were those two kids who went to the school that was a bit further away from home. And with primary school children, they will come as a group, the neighborhood kids, and they will relate stories about their own primary school. And I felt left out because I was not part of the group. I went to the school that was further away from home. So that was my first issue. Now, the second issue now was the corporal punishment. At the time, Renule Primary School felt like, guys, a concentration camp. It felt like we were training to be soldiers. It was I remember there was a grade 1 and grade 2 teacher, like those two teachers who were forever screaming at children and just shouting. It felt like any mistake that a learner would make, the learner would be shouted at. And it was so normal. It was kind of a normal thing to hear these two teachers who were responsible for the grade 1 and grade 2 classes screaming during school hours. And I just never quite understood why anyone was not intervening. The school principal knew about this, but he was doing nothing about it. And it was just that kind of an environment. If it's not being beaten, it's the severe punishment that you will receive. You'll be punished to clean the toilets or even mop the passages, like such things. So yeah, I didn't really like being at school in my primary days because I felt like, you know what, it was just too much. So fine, I was at Renelwe, there was nothing we could do about it. And the thing about it was that it's funny because some of the learners who went to the other schools were experiencing the same thing in other schools. Those that went to Liboning Primary School were also relating similar stories about corporal punishment, about being punished. I guess it's also an effect of apartheid, the system of the government, because government used, at that time, government used a lot of violence, it used a lot of force against Black people, and Black people retaliated with the same violence, or if not the same, they retaliated with violence as well. So it was that kind of environment. So fine, okay, I finished my grade 3 and then go on to grade 4, and we get to grade 5. So with grade 5, the corporal punishment was continuing as per normal. And I remember there was this learner, let's call this learner Jack. So Jack came from another school and he joined our class. Jack was kind of that reserved character. He was reserved, always minding his business, and didn't talk much to us. And Jack was a bit older than us at the time. And because he was coming from another school and also he was reserved, like we never really socialized with him or even spoke to him, because he used to sit right at the front of the class, just like the first desk, if I remember correctly. And he would speak to his desk mate, and that was it. He wouldn't speak to us. So fine, he came, and yeah, he was just that guy that we never spoke to. So this particular day, Teacher Masango, let's call her Teacher Masango. Teacher Masango was one of those teachers who was very, very big on corporal punishment, who was big on, like, you were just punished during her lessons, you were just punished for anything and everything, guys. Even including, I remember my friends and I used to do this thing of taking a pen and scratching the desk, and that would create friction and it would be hot and we would point at each other. You know, we used to do that. I remember this one day, Mary and I did that, and we pointed at one of the learners and she reported us, and it was during Miss Masango's class. And she asked us to stand in front of the class. We stood in front of the class for some time, and after that, she said that we are going to mop the passages, you know, like the passages, guys. So Renele is structured in this way. It's kind of a rectangular. It's in a rectangular form, and on the right side is the grade 1 until grade 3, and then on the left would be grade 4 up until grade 7, and the other side would be the offices of the principal and the staff members. And from then on, just in the center, there's a garden, there's a small garden, and it's passages all around. So we were punished to mop the passages. And when I'm talking about mopping, I'm not talking about using the mop. I'm talking about the traditional way of doing it, with a piece of cloth, a bucket of water, and you are mopping. And I must mention that Hamaskara is very hot. So you are mopping the passages and it's very hot. So it was one of those things. And I remember she punished us for the whole week, but I think we did just one day, and the next day we did that, and afterwards we just didn't do it, and she didn't follow up, luckily for us. So those were the kinds of punishments that we were subjected to. And yeah, so this particular day, we we are preparing to go home. Miss Masango is the last period of the day and she's busy marking. So then we prepare to go home, and then we were used to praying just before we go home. Fine, we stand up to pray. Fine, everything is normal. We stand up to pray, we pray and pray and pray. And after praying, there's an exchange between Miss Masango and Jack. So she is going on at him about him not standing up during prayer. Why is he not standing up? He is stubborn and all these things. He's going at him, and we are just there standing because we are like, can we go home, or must we bear witness to this? Or what must we do? We are there standing, and she's going at him and like, why were you not standing, and whatever. And yeah, so guys, I don't know what happened and when it happened. All I saw was Jack giving Miss Masango a hot clap, like a proper clap, a proper smack on the face. And then from then there was commotion. He had a chair, he threw the chair at her, and some of us were starting to scream. There was just commotion, and he was going at her, he was kicking her. He was like, he was beating the hell out of our teacher. It was like traumatic. Some of us were just screaming there. Some were trying to help the teacher, and it was just chaos, like a movie scene, And at some point, as Jack was continuing to attack the teacher, and the teacher was trying to defend herself, at some point one of our classmates went outside to call another teacher. And I think Jack realized that one of our classmates went to call a teacher. And then that's when he ran out of the class. And as he is running, the other teacher from the other class now comes running after him. And there we are, guys. We are also running. We are also running with them. Hey, just like a movie scene. We are running with them, and he runs to the gate only to find that the gate is locked. And when he realized that the gate is locked and realized that the other teacher was coming after him, and with all of us running towards that direction, then he jumped over the fence. Yeah, like a movie scene. Like a movie scene. Nothing we had experienced before at the time, and it's like, wow. And I think for most of us it was like, wow, this guy just stood up, not just only to any other teacher, but like the queen of corporal punishment, guys. The queen of corporal punishment. So fine, after he jumped over the fence, he continued running, and this other teacher realized that he was just not going to catch Jack. So fine, then afterwards, then this teacher starts talking to us. Hey, you guys, why are you running after him? Why are you not in class and all those things? And we're like, brother, school out, get after school. Anyway, fine, we disperse. And you know what? On our way, there was so much excitement in terms of we were all, well, not all, but most of us felt like, you know what? At least someone stood up to this teacher who was forever beating us, who was forever punishing us. And I remember the excitement we had as we were discussing the event and discussing what had happened in class that day. I remember we were talking, and when something, because it happened so fast, the other one saw this thing and the other one saw this thing, and so everyone has their own version of what happened, Fine, we go home, but the mutual feeling amongst the learners is that, someone stood up to her. Fine, we go home, and the next day things are tense. But Jack is not at school. Fine, things are tense, a bit weird, and yeah, man, it's not business as usual, and the corporal punishment is it's not there, nyana. Like, fine. I think 2 weeks goes by, and after 2 weeks, teacher Masango comes to our class and informs us that, well, Jack will be coming back to school, and they are speaking to us because they want us to treat him normal, treat him like nothing has happened, because Jack came to the school with the mother, and Jack has apologized to the teacher, and there was like an agreement, and he apologized, so we need not treat him like, I don't know, an outsider, or I don't know, we should just be normal. And I'm like, no, it's not going to be normal, So, fine, Jack comes back to our class, and things are awkward. But personally, I felt quite safe with him there. It's unfortunate, guys, that this guy used violence against violence, and I felt quite safe around him. I felt as if here is this person who's here to protect us, basically. I felt that when he's there, his presence was kind of a way of ensuring safety for us, And yeah, it's a horrible thing when you think about it now, because I mean, here was this kind of violent person, and yeah, I felt safe around this person, because I felt like should anything happen, he would sort of stand up for us. He comes back, and life kind of goes back to normal, you know. He's still reserved, and even more so now after the actual thing happened, and there's this gossiping, this whispering around. Of course, as kids, we are whispering around it, really, and yeah, so that's what happened. And that was in grade 5. So Renela had grade 7, but I went through my grade 6, and I spoke to my mother that, you know what, I'm not going to do my grade 7 at Renela Primary School, because of everything that was happening there. I was not happy at the school at all. And my mom supported my decision not to finish off the grade 7 there, and I then went to Madison Middle School. And because I am such a free spirit, guys, I felt quite at home at Madison Middle School, because the teachers there were not so violent. There was corporal punishment still, but it was not as bad as it was at Renela Primary School. And I kind of made a decision as well that I would never set my foot at Renela Primary School, and I've never been there. I don't know now. Maybe I would go, maybe not. The teachers are no longer there, and you know what? Given our apartheid past and everything that happened to us as a society, I think I understand now why everything was happening and why it happened the way it did. It's very, very sad that when you are not taught how to to communicate your feelings, how to, you know, discipline children. If you are taught that a child needs to be beaten, that's exactly what you're going to do. As much as you say that you're not going to do it, you might end up doing it because it's learned behavior. So I feel like there's a lot of unlearning that we have to do as a society, in order to deal with the gender-based violence and violence as a whole, in our society. There's a lot of unlearning, there's a lot of trauma counseling that still needs to happen. And I'm glad that as a country, we are getting to the point whereby talking about such things is no longer a taboo. We are able to discuss these things and we acknowledge and recognize our problems. So at least with acknowledging it, that is the first step, at least, to dealing with the challenges that we are facing. And also what I learned from that unfortunate incident, I learned to stand up for myself. Following that incident, I've always asked myself why I think I'm very sensitive to bullies. I'm very sensitive to people who want to abuse their power. And as soon as I come across such a person, I make sure to let them know that, you know what, you're not going to do it here. Not with me. I refuse to be your victim. And yeah, throughout my childhood, I was standing up for myself. And to this day, I still stand up for myself. And I think a big part of it was the story, that Jack story. Because for me, that was a changing point that, okay, a person can do this. Like, a person can retaliate. A person, it's unfortunate that it was a violent incident, but at least now we know we can stand up for ourselves. You can speak out, take care of yourself, put yourself first. You are important. You need not be a victim to anyone, and we pray and hope that to those that are victims of gender-based violence, that they can find strength, to leave those kinds of situations, those kinds of households, partners, and those that are perpetrators, we hope that they will find help so that we create a much safer society where we are not killing each other. So yeah, that is the story of Jack, and that is the story of how someone stood up against the other, but it was unfortunate because it was violence against violence. So until next time, be safe, be kind, and take care of yourself. Be sure to follow me on Facebook at Polo Madala, and on Twitter I'm at Madala Polo, and on Instagram I'm at Polo_Madala. Cheers. Continue to enjoy your festive season.